All right, everybody, away we go. Welcome to today's call. It is Friday, May 10th. Amazing how time flies when you're having a blast in real estate. May 10th of 2019, this is the TRC sales training call. I want to get it going right on time here so that we can cover as much as we can in the next 60 minutes. Couple updates of things that we've talked about here recently include process. And so in the mastermind, which I always like to share some of that with everybody in the sales training, and we did a campfire on it yesterday. In the Griffin Realty Group, we did some team training this week about a listing presentation that one of my agents had gone on. And it was very important for her to understand that when we teach a process, we really mean it literally, right? When you look at all of the little steps that I've learned over time, it's very difficult for top producers who have done something for a long time to explain to you how they do what they do. I happen to be blessed with the ability, I think, to look back at how I do something, chunk it up, and share it. And so when it comes to listing presentations, I think it's very important for me to share that I follow a routine every single time I go through a listing presentation. And more importantly than just that, it's not just that I share a routine on the phone. I have Autumn here today from our team, our new telemarketer extraordinaire, who's doing a great job. There are a lot of things that we do here to make sure that we get this right. And following a routine is very important. In the beginning, I get it, that you've never been experienced before if you're new to the business. And I know I have some new people on here today. Chris Egan has James on here today. There's a couple of people that for the first time might be hearing this. I really want to say that the main word here on the sales training call every week should be around the word plan. The more that you can work your plan, and you'll notice, I'll put this up on, for those of you watching on Facebook and YouTube, I have right next to me an empty white pad with a pencil that even when I'm in a coaching mode, in a training mode, I'm learning and I'm making small distinctions that I want to go back to my formula or my process, and I want to put those in place because I'm always looking to now make micro refinements. And I make micro refinements in the way that I sell, per se, in this business, because I feel like I'm a guide that's educating versus selling. But I'll use the word sales because it's not dirty to me. It's important to understand that's what you're going to do. You're going to facilitate a sale at the end of the day. But it's very, very important to understand you're always learning about these micro tweaks. So when I share something with you, I'm sharing it from experience. And I'm going to tell you this right now. As much experience as I have doing it and training it over the last 20 years, thousands of hours, I'm guaranteeing you I'm well past the tipping point of 10,000 hours. But my point is really that I'm always learning, and I'm learning from the consumer. And oftentimes in a sales training environment, you don't see that because you don't see the consumer in this group with us. The consumer is not sitting on a training call trying to give us the guidance. They give it to us in real time. So remember that when we're training here, a lot of this is based on experience from top producers. But the second part of it is that you're supposed to go out and you're supposed to harvest me, your own experience, so that I can train you on how to make your adjustments. So if you go out there and you have some recordings and whatnot, and I'll talk to Autumn today and my own team, and we'll talk about some of the adjustments, it's important to learn. Now, I've also said this to a couple of people I've been recruiting. You can be a talented salesperson. You can be a talented goal-oriented person, but that doesn't necessarily predicate that you will be successful in this business without that plan, without that system, and then sticking to it. A lot of salespeople believe that their magic sauce is hype, enthusiasm, and we talked about that in the mastermind and the campfire yesterday, where we get very enthusiastic. I think what you need to do is you need to understand, though, it's not just enthusiasm, it's a plan. People really want to know that you give them the best chance to win, okay? That's the key here. Do you give me the best chance to win? Yes or no? And that becomes a very, very important part of this, right? The way that somebody determines whether you give them the best chance to win is the clarity of the way that you discuss how you're going to do it for them, right? Really important. So remember the words plan. Remember the word enthusiasm. These are all things that I want to share here today, a very, very important part of the process. But when I get into this, and I've got a couple of folks, up in Ottawa who are very good at what they do, I want to bring them back in. They were very helpful to give us some real-time feedback on how they do what they do. But today is first about this sales process for listings. because I want everybody that listens into this, everybody who understands this business, to understand the process for listings that I have learned over time is really, really, really important to follow. Okay. So let me open up the mics. Remember, we're live here for all of my internal members who have access to ask questions and participate actively. Please remember to mute your mic if you're in a noisy spot. For all of you that are on Facebook or YouTube, live chat is great. I try to pay attention to all the questions that pop up in front of me, and I'm a pretty good multitasker at this point in my coaching career. Okay, so let me get this open and rolling here, and we'll see who's up there. All right, let's just check mics. We good? Everybody hearing me okay? Good. All right, Chris. Yeah, thank you. Hey, Chris, welcome to, hi, everybody. Hi. Hi, James Yunt, welcome. Member of the Egan team, excited to have you, buddy. Thanks for coming here. And as our guest of honor here today, feel free to ask any of your questions. We're thrilled that you're part of the Egan team. So that's good news for us. Let me go to Autumn, my Autumn at the Griffin Realty Group. Are you there, Autumn, still?
Can you hear me?
I can. I've got you now. Hey, Autumn, let's just, for a second, let's touch upon your learning curve when it comes to what you've learned about the seller intake form, meaning you're having great success, having a lot of conversations where people are very much willing for you to have send out a new brochure on our selling system. And that includes, obviously, what's most important to them, a cloud CMA, which shows the pictures and details of properties around them. So that's working well. But I want to talk about that next learning curve with you that comes from us dealing with that intake form, asking those questions. And let's deal with the challenges of that. And we just learned, with this challenging situation that not everybody's going to play the game the way we need them to play it. In other words, a lot of them are going to be stuck in situations where they're elderly, they get confused, and a lot of different things happen. So speak to that for a second. Let's just hear a little bit of a narrative about your personal evolution. What have you learned about the booking of the appointment, not how to get them to say yes to the package, but rather the importance of the details of booking the appointment. Hit that a little bit for me.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you that was a perfect thing to ask me because, I was just speaking with Laura about this, and we were talking about the process and the curve. And the bottom line is, in my mind, is I really don't know what the heck I'm doing. The only thing I do know is how to telemarket, how to talk on the phone, how to get those appointments, those people to talk to me, etc. But when it comes to real estate, the learning curve is stunning for me. Because what started out, I realized almost immediately that I couldn't say real estate's just like everything else that I have done. I can't say that. It is different. They're all different. But this one is particularly different because it's in a lot of ways, it's a very long-term nurture. And what I mean by that is it starts with my first call, it goes to hopefully an appointment, and then after that, it's touching base, asking for more appointments, asking for phone appointments with Danny for the consumer, et cetera, et cetera. What I've learned, and this just happened last week, and I need to really preach this because this is what Danny is preaching lately, and this is the truth. The seller qualifying question sheet is essential. The reason that I'm bringing that up is because last week I set an appointment for Danny. Thank God it was close and wasn't far away. But I set an appointment with a woman, and I got quite a bit of information out of her, but I didn't get the information that I needed. The information that I needed was that her husband had died, that even though he was still on the listing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I needed to know that she was struggling with senility. I needed to understand certain things. And so what happened was, on the day of the appointment, or let me go back, the day before the appointment, I called and the number was busy. The number was busy. This went on for 2 days, and I called around the clock, and I could not get in because the number, and now I'm being told the number's disconnected. Well, this is what happened. We sent Danny over there anyway. He gets there, and they're having an estate sale, and the woman's nowhere to be found. Now, thankfully, thankfully, Danny had a friend in the neighborhood who said, the woman is grieving. She's older. She's, we're thinking maybe a little senile. So the bottom line is, if I had used the seller qualifying questions, I think I would have gotten a clue as to what was going on, and wouldn't have sent Danny out there. So what I'm learning is, number one, the seller qualifying question sheet, you cannot not do that. That has to be done. I'm learning that there are all different types of emotions that are involved in selling your home. And I'm learning how to navigate with lots of different emotions that people have, whether it's frustration, anger, fear. I've never encountered excitement. They all know that they're going into something that's really, really difficult. That's what I would have to say, is that while I'm good on the telephone, the actual understanding the consumer, the client, the seller, the buyer is where my learning curve is happening. And so far, it's been 2 months tomorrow that I've been doing this. And while we have a good telemarketing start, and we do have some appointments, there is so much more for me to learn, because the bottom line is, I'm going to tell you guys, I don't know what the heck I'm doing yet.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Well,
I'm winging it. I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah. And I think that's good. See, this is my own office, everybody. So you're hearing, like, we try to be as transparent as possible with the reality of the situation. Now, let's make it clear to all the team leaders and all the agents listening. This is no rookie that's speaking on the phone here today with me. She has 35 years of telemarketing experience, but telemarketing experience, and I say this to a lot of salespeople. I've actually said this, Autumn, to a couple of recruits recently. I said, look, the ability to sell is definitely a wonderful thing to bring into this, this business. Or telemarket. In your case, I'm going to differentiate the two. I think people get confused that the outside sales is similar to the inside sales. I don't agree. I think telemarketing, a professional telemarketer like you, and I had another one by the name of Jack, is an extremely unique skill set. And so I want to be clear, especially to my team leaders or solo flyers that I coach that do these jobs, is almost a brain gear shift that you have to have when you are doing telemarketing professionally and you are doing outside sales. There's a difference. There's no doubt about it, because as you said, and what you're learning is that there's a lot of follow-up required. The money in real estate agency per se is definitely in your ability to understand that. Now, what you do about it tactically is a lifetime worth of coaching and tweaking and understanding. But let's just suffice to say the recognition that people just don't make a buying decision in real estate over the phone is really critical. And I think and I think that takes a lot of pressure off of some of the teams. We heard from Dave, who's unfortunately sick this week, but we have the team up in Ottawa again with Sarah and Patrick, and we have Dave, those three in particular. Again, a lot of what they've learned, Autumn, from the past was a window in time where the proprietary nature of access, let me just explain this correctly. The proprietary nature of access to information was a portal through the agent or the agency. So in other words, what we used to be able to do much more easily than we could do today if we tried that way is say, look, when can we get together for 15 or 20 minutes right now? Right now, because you need to come to me for access to that information. So if you sit down with me for 15 or 20 minutes, then I can set you up better with the criteria. That was an extremely legitimate offer when the public did not have the access to pictures and details of properties. That was a very legitimate offer. We were the gatekeeper. I've been around this business long enough, and including before I was licensed 20 years ago, as an investor, as a young investor, I used to actually run down to the local buyer brokerage and open up the printed book, which came out every 2 weeks, right? And so that was how you had a proprietary relationship. I had to go to them to get the book, right? And that's what I did. I would sit in the office and I would just sit in the front desk area and I would just read the book and I would circle things and I would do my drive-bys, right? And so it was a very legitimate, and if people don't have that, especially new agents, they don't have that historical perspective, and then they're being taught something that is no longer historically the same. That's a big problem in sales training. Huge. Right. It doesn't mean that when we pick up the phone that there aren't people whose timing isn't right now. As you've found out with expireds, you've gotten me into a few houses where at least their timing for an in-home education was now. And you've put me there. So I've been there. And again, I think what we talked about today as a case study is the importance of the entirety of the process, which I'll backtrack to. But I want to start at the first beat where we say, look, the number one thing to understand is that your offer of service really matters. You can't even get to a seller qualifying questionnaire if you don't really think about the offer of service and how it matches somebody's timing. That's number one. So for all the team leaders, especially that are in charge of the marketing, the chief marketing officer better think about that when they garner these leads. What are you garnering for your inside sales telemarketing staff? What are you doing? Are you actually getting people whose timing is clear or not? Make that clear to the staff that's having to, be tasked with this. Then give them an offer that has some flexibility because the timing of the consumer needs flexibility. Some are now. What kind of an offer do you make to somebody who is now? And how do you define now? Is now inside of 60 to 90 days? Probably. Is later than 90 days? Probably. Is too long for any really substantial follow-up? Past 18 months? Probably. And those are just things that we found and refined over time. So once you have discovery of this person's context, and this happens with all these correct questions on scripting. So the scripting becomes really important to keep you understanding where you're at in that whole real scenario. It's not, people are all getting fooled into thinking that scripting is about memorization and regurgitating. I'll tell you, that's the fastest way to turn a lot of people off. When you sound like you're talking right? Yeah. When you sound like you're talking at them in a scripted way, it's a very quick way to turn people off. And it's naive. You don't talk to people that way. So why would you believe in a business context that would ever work on anybody else? The answer is maybe you'll skim some cream, but over the long run, it's not a sustainable business model. So the first thing is that,
not at all.
Right. So introducing yourself correctly and recognizing the other person, the consumer, the hero of the story, recognizing their context has worked very well for this professional telemarketer who joins the Griffin Realty Group. She can now come in and say, I'm Autumn from the Griffin Realty Group, and I'm calling you because is a trigger word. And the reason I now believe it's a trigger word, I learned it from Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, but now I believe it's a trigger word in our context because makes you lean in. It sounds like it's the entree into there's something in it for you because it is if you do it correctly. Hi, Autumn. I'm Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. I'm calling you because I saw that your property expired and I took the liberty to send you out a bunch of pictures and details of properties that were on the market when you were. I thought that would be insightful and helpful. And in the case that you're thinking about relisting, I gave you the plan we use with our clients to help them be successful, period. Boom. So there really is something in it for people if you think intelligently about this. But that simply allows you to be a gift giver at the beginning of a relationship. And the gift is thought out. Think about all the Christmas gifts you've gotten that you sort of rolled your eyes and, oh my gosh, another, pair of flannel socks, and your eyes roll up in the back of your head, right? I mean, I think that's what happens to us is that we stop thinking like that receiver. If I were an expired, if somebody in my family just died and I was in charge of it, right? And there's real estate, what kind of a gift would I love to get? That's the setup. And simply what that allows you to do is then be able to do what Autumn is suggesting is next, which is to get into conversations with people about their personal situation. Becomes really important to understand that. So Autumn, pick us up there. Let's roll smoothly into the intake for seller stuff here. And by the way, I'm putting Sarah and Patrick on notice. I would love to hear from you two today as well as a follow-up to some of the stuff we talked about last week. And you noticed I hit that beat again today, that we need to make the introduction and we need to be prepared with a flexible offer based on their timing, because the offer you make to somebody who's ready for an appointment is not the same one you make to somebody who's 6 months out. And it's not the same one you make for long-term follow-up. So we have to talk through that a little bit here and chunk up what we perceive to be best practices. But Autumn, take me back to after that introduction. We get it. I think you all should be scripted in the beginning to make an introduction. Here's who I am. Here's where I'm from. I'm calling because. I'll leave it at that for right now. I think that is a universal concept of introducing yourself properly on the phone. But I want to get to the next piece.
Right.
I want you to take me there that once you make that, because the offer that you and Laura have been working on over the last 8 weeks in the office has been simply to get them information mailed to them. Let's talk about that for a second and keep it in the context, since we've done expireds and probates, keep it in those two contexts, please.
Okay, I will. I want to preamble it to the agents and say that one of you, I believe Gail, had asked me for a script, which is a good thing to ask for. But I want you guys to be patient with me, because I do not want to write down what I'm saying and give it to you until I feel that it's so foolproof and bulletproof that it's going to work. And that's going to take me a few more months to hash out, because I'm still doing the trial and error myself. Now, so just be patient, and eventually I will have a developed script for you that will be short, to the point, that you can make conversational. Picking up after the introduction, the first thing that I do is I let them, excuse me, I let them know that I'm somewhat in awe of their property. Now, I'm not talking about being
I'm going to.
Hey guys,
I'm not talking
hang on 1 second. Let me just a reminder, everybody, we have live mics, okay? So make sure your mic is muted so we don't miss a word she's saying. It's super important. Just mute your mic if you're talking in the background, okay? All right, go ahead.
I'm not talking about being a phony baloney. I'm talking about genuinely recognizing, and here's my thought process. I genuinely recognize the opportunity that I have here at Griffin Realty Group to make a good living for myself, beyond a good living, a great living, okay? So when I get someone on the phone who I've introduced myself to, and they're listening and they're not hanging up, then I am somewhat in awe of them, because they're going to help me reach my goal. So I will say to them, you know, I looked online and I saw your beautiful home, and I'm impressed, and I noticed that it did not sell, and I would like to send you some information that will help you to sell it when you put it back on the market. Does that sound good? Maybe I'll say, or I'll say, may I do that? That's what I generally say. May I do that? And that, the way I'm doing that, the way my tone, the concision, the direct ask is appreciated by people on the phone, because they didn't plan to get on the phone with a telemarketer for an hour today. So when I say right away, may I do that, they're appreciative, and they will say, sure, go ahead. Or the flower will open, it will bloom, and I will hear the story. Now, if they say send it, I'm going to be going to seller qualifying questions. I'm going to go to that sheet, and I'm saying that to myself, guys, more than I'm saying it to you, because at that point I have the opportunity to really understand what's going on. Mr. Jones, why are you thinking about selling this home? What caused you to think about that? On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you right now? What year did you buy it? Blah, 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 blah. Did you do any upgrades? There's a way for me to speak this seller qualifying question sheet in a way that makes sense. And believe me, I feel honored that they're talking to me, because I have a personal goal, and that is to make a good living in real estate. So, have I answered the question, Danny?
Yeah. Well, let me go back to it. No, you did. No, you got it. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Say that again.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Hey, is it my phone that's breaking up?
Did you ask me?
Is it my phone that's breaking up a little bit, or hers?
Yeah, it's your phone that's breaking up.
Yeah, Danny, it's yours.
Oh boy. Okay.
It's yours,
All right.
Danny.
All right. Well, I'm going to do my best then. So go back to the offer. I saw your beautiful home online.
Now I hear you.
Yeah. Go back to the offer. I saw your beautiful home online. Go back to that.
Okay. I saw your beautiful home online, and I saw that it did not sell, that it's off the market, and I would like to send you a bit of information that will make sure that that home sells the next time. Now, if you guys notice I'm saying it differently, it's because I haven't perfected it yet.
It's okay. Keep going. I'm making notes. I want to make these notes. So I saw I saw your beautiful home online.
I saw your beautiful home online. I see that it's off the market. I would like to send you information that will, so that you will be able to sell it the next time. May I do that?
Okay.
It's really quite simple, you guys. That was about 4 sentences.
I would like to send you information.
I saw your beautiful. I would like to send you some information that will make sure you sell that home the next time. May I do that?
That will help you what?
Now, until I get that one,
That will help you
that
what?
will help you sell that. Help you sell that home the next time.
Okay.
May I do that?
Okay, questions. Let's go into some Q&A mode here, or some thoughts about this so far before we get into what it allows her to do next, which is ask some qualifying questions, right? Which is going to be similar to, again, I don't want you to misunderstand where I was coming from. I think once there's a yes to an appointment, there's a lot of reiteration of this conversation. So it's not like there's a departure.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about some Q&A here. With thoughts so far, as especially any of my gang that up in Canada, if you're doing any of the expireds, I want to hear from you, or any of the telemarketers. Looks like Terry, you're in here today too. I'd like to hear from some of you all.
I'm not doing fucking expired.
Oh, hello. Don't swear. Thank you. Okay, took care of that. Next. Okay, go ahead. Somebody from Ottawa, tell me about that.
Hey, Danny, Pat here.
Hi, Pat.
Yeah, so I think that intro is great. It really opens up the conversation. You'll sort of see how receptive they are to if they're going to be putting the property back up in the market. If they're not, if they are, they'll probably want that information because they do want to sell. And that sort of opens up that conversation into timeline, when they want to go back up, what their expectations are, what would be the important part of the process, et cetera.
Yeah. So tell me about what you thought about what she was saying. Anything resonate? Any tweaks there? Because you are very conversational, by the way. I mean, my compliment to you is I really think that, and when I've heard you in the past, very, very conversational. So pick up a little bit there. Go into it a little bit more about, well, like that offer piece of it. What'd you think of that?
I like the offer. Like she said, it's straightforward, right to the point. I think people do appreciate that. The quicker you can get to the point of what the reason of your phone call is, the quicker you can get to the answers.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And it's respectful. It's respectful, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so I think the thing, I'm going to push back a little bit here. Let me push back a little bit here. I think the thing that I was looking at and I was saying to myself here is like, well, you're asking a question that allows them to say no. Yet what I'm totally intrigued by, and this is why I like to get out of the way and listen to the consumer. What I'm intrigued by is the level of success we have had. I mean, I certainly have some calls I could play. I wasn't intending to play calls today, but I think for the setup for next week, I'd really like to hear some of the recorded calls and listen, particularly for the offer. So this week, when you are going through your calls, if you could just make note of maybe 2-3 calls, Autumn, where we really clearly make an offer. Let's listen to the consumer. And yeah, the same offer would, but multiple reactions is what matters. Because Pat, yeah, hold on, Pat. The thing that I think I was concerned about was that she's asking a question now, because I instruct whenever possible the marketer or the person in charge of marketing to not hesitate to get information. And I don't want this to be just about expireds. This is about sellers in general, whether they're internet leads for home evaluation, whether they're probates where somebody's passed, FSBOs, expireds, referrals, anything. Doesn't matter to me. This is a listing, movement. And the buy side we talked about last week, but I can hit that again too. So if you come into this and you say, and you ask a question, would it be okay? I think the only reason she could get away with that, my gut tells me, is because of one very critical line here that she said. That's why I wanted to write it down. And I saw that it didn't sell. I would like to send you information that will help you sell your property the next time. That's intriguing. That's a what's in it for them. And now they're intrigued. Well, what information? So I think the only way you can get away with the next line, which was, would that be okay with you? Okay. And look, this is a double-edged sword when it comes to business. I mean, if we keep asking questions and knowing that most of us as consumers would really kind of back off, at that moment. Hey, thanks for coming to the men's shoe store, Pat. Could you want to try on some shoes? No, I don't think so. You know what I mean? Even though Pat in the back of his head is saying, yeah, I really need a new pair of shoes. I just don't want you, all over me while I'm doing it. Right. So we have this weird moment here. It's a really important moment is to say,
Danny,
yeah, hang on one second. Let me just finish my thought and you can have at it. So Pat, I think the idea is that really it's that moment that we are trying to crack that code, that we as consumers are very fully aware that if somebody pressures us in that moment, or even just asks, they don't even have to pressure us. There's a knee-jerk reaction to back away. So when you ask an open-ended question, would it be okay? If you haven't set it up with something that's intriguing or triggering, I think you're in danger of hearing a lot of no's. All right, first go ahead, Autumn, and then Pat, let me hear your thoughts about that moment.
Well, I want to address now. You're saying, would it be okay if I did that? Now, I want you to really hear what I'm saying, Danny, which is, may I do that? That's 4 words. You don't want to say, I couldn't get away, Danny, with saying, would it be okay? Because if I said that, it's going to give them the opportunity to give me a good swift kick.
Yep.
So what I say is, may I do that? It's 4 words. May I do that? And if it's said graciously enough, they will fall right into my open hand and say, yes, you may. If they tell me no, well, we can talk about that at whatever point you want to talk about that, Danny.
Okay.
But I want you to remember that's a very short 4 words there.
Yeah. What's your experience with that? Why are they saying yes so often? Because you have, I don't know if you have the metrics in front of you. I've asked Laura to get with you to compile the metrics of actually how many real how many real packages have been sent out. But give me your best educated guess on how many it's been.
Well, the numbers are working out because I went over them cursorily, maybe on Monday, and Laura and I were discussing it. I will not tell you that my numbers right now are my usual. My usual is towards the exceptional range. I'm saying that very humbly, guys. But what I am doing right now is I'm right on target. The numbers are generally 2 out of every 10. Now, personally, I'm a 4, sometimes even a 6. Not every day. Every day I'm a 4 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, the normal range is 2 packages per 10 calls, 2 yeses per 10 calls, and I'm right on that mark. So in my mind, I am doing fine, but I have not hit my stride yet.
Okay.
So that's what the metric is right now. And that's in, even in, say 70, 80 calls on my dialer a day. My contacts are, 9 or 10. I think I had 70 calls, 9 contacts, 2 packages.
Okay.
So once again, we're seeing that same number out of contacts. If you're getting 2 packages out of every 10 people, you are doing the normal. You are making your quota for telemarketing.
All right, good. So now we've hang on. Now we've got some metrics. I want to go back to let's go to quality now. Okay. And this will be hard for you to discuss, but do your best here. The quality of the yes, send it to me. Like, for example, we got a package out to, and it was kind of a weird situation. And yeah, let's be transparent. We run into some weird situations. We got a lady with dementia who had no idea. There's one. Yeah, exactly. There's one reality. So that was one. And we didn't. So that just went to prove to us how important process was, as you've already stated. That's one. Number 2, you found that gal that was in Florida who owned the Boston property, which turned out to have the Roslindale property. So there was like this down the line thing. And you got me an appointment with her brother, but he's not a decision maker. And it turns out that this lady's a realtor, and because she couldn't see us and it all sounded nebulous, she just ended up going with Redfin for the discount, right? So that was a little bit off, but they were good. So now those are okay quality versus some of the other ones, you know, that like Muhammad, I actually went and met with Muhammad about his house. Daniel, I actually went and met with Daniel about his house. Those are super quality appointments when you're dealing directly with the decision maker, and they give you that opportunity. Yeah. Tell me your thoughts about how would all the folks here listening to this, what you've learned so far in the 8 weeks, how do you find more quality? What would you do differently? I mean, is that offer? Is it digging in enough? Or is it just still meant to get appointments, right? I mean, talk about quality of what you're doing in that moment.
All right. Well, being that I am generally saying the same thing in the opening telemarketing call, so these 4 people, let's look at those 4, too good, too nebulous. They all bit my hook. Okay. So I pulled them out of the water and I threw them in the bucket. Now, the one woman that was dealing with senility, that one was very difficult because I did have a couple of somewhat long conversations with her. So she obviously goes in and out of reality, and I didn't realize what I was dealing with. So that was what that was. The other woman who ended up going with Redfin, the problem with that one was that she was more in control of what was happening than I was. And what was very difficult for me was that she would not let me lead. She had to be in the lead the whole time. She was an agent. I believe we offered her a referral fee, on and so forth. But when I look back on Nancy Davis, she was in control from the beginning, from the moment she called me back, because I had called her phone and she called back in here to the office. Now,
go ahead. That was me. Sorry, I was trying to answer a question on Facebook while you're talking. Keep going.
That's all right. When you look at the 2 that were good, Mohammed and Daniel, now I did the same exact opening with both of them. The difference would be, and this is kind of everybody.
Well, hang on. We got all sorts of stuff. We got Spanish guitar. There you go. I got it. Go.
Okay. So the difference with them is, and I'm going to be honest, a part of it is beginner's luck because I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
Yep. And
because I wasn't using the qualifying sheet. But the difference is timing. Both of those people were frustrated, knew they had good properties, were flattered by the phone call, wanted help, and their timing was right. Mm-hmm. Even Mohammed, who has not let us come see the house, we have now got him to the gate where he's going to let us see the house sometime after this weekend. So the difference for me as a novice in real estate is just simply timing. That was what was right.
Yeah, good, real good. Pat, any comments there about, the moments of time? Because I'm going to segue into buy side. It just hits me that we should be talking a little bit more about that offer moment. So you heard what she's giving them, which was, some information. I'll come back to you, Autumn. Think about this question while I'm going to Pat. Once they say what information or what is it, I'm going to need you to answer that. But Pat, come back to me a little bit and let's segue to the buy side because you've been doing buy side for a long time. And Sarah, you can jump in after him too. I really want to hear about this offer. And I want to hear, Sarah, when I get to you, I want to hear about your adjustments that you're going to make for the longer term stuff. I know you're adept at getting yeses to now. I'm not interested in that as much today as I am about the money I want everybody to pick up off the floor, which is the longer term money. Pat, go first. Tell me a little bit about a longer term buy side offer. How do you get them excited to stay in contact, and how do you keep yourself excited?
Well, I keep them excited by, I tell them I'm going to be sending you all the properties that match your criteria the second they hit the market. So you'll have access to those first and foremost before most people. And then second of all, I keep myself excited by taking a look to see if they're looking at their portal. And if they are looking at their portal, then you know that they're excited about what's to come. And I think that just leads into follow up and waiting until they're ready to buy. And then you get to that point, and then they're ready to go.
Okay. When you follow up with people, what kind of conversations are you having? Like, I'm going to give you a real hardcore one. Guy's 12 months out. He says, Pat, thanks for calling. I am using your website. I'm getting properties. I'm just not ready. I don't transfer my job until the end of the year. So I got 12 months to go. Okay. Well, give me the offer. Be specific.
Okay. So, look, I understand that you won't be moving till the end of the year, 12 months. But obviously you want to stay updated with the market. So what I can do is the area that you are looking to buy into and close to the criteria that you'll be looking to purchase, I'll send you all those properties. You can take a look at what the pricing is like, what your money is going to be able to afford, and then you'll have an idea what the market's like now. And by the time that you're ready to buy, you'll be knowledgeable of that area and of what you can afford. And then you'll have that information at hand when we're ready to fire.
Okay. All right. So that's there. Put some beats down in writing because you reiterated the same thing twice. It was good, but I think you can just nail it down really short and sweet. I think less is more in that moment. Hey, Pat, sounds great. Listen, what I'm going to do is keep you updated on what's happening generally in the Ottawa market so you have an idea when the time is right what's happening. But more importantly, I'm going to really keep you focused on what's selling around you. So when it's time to put the house on, you know the local market trends. Okay? And then what I'll do is from time to time, I'll call you and just discuss it. Would that be okay? See what I'm saying? I got the same beats you got. It was just more specific. 1, the global market in Ottawa. 2, the micro market around the guy's house. 3, I'm defining the expectation that I will be following up to discuss that stuff. So, Pat, you won't really need to hear from me, on a super regular basis, but, at least every other month I'll put a touch on it and just let you know exactly what's happening around you. Because believe it or not, once you get inside of 6 months, that's when you'll need some of our coaching to make sure you're really prepared for sale. Right? So I think understanding just an iteration of the process. If a guy's 12 months out, he only needs that stuff, the market update and the micro look at what's happening every other month might be fine because the continuity of product coming from you and remembering leveraging technology in that moment, long-term follow-up is the most important. That's where technology plays its most major role, in my opinion, and this is my pragmatic opinion, watching us monetize long-term people. So making sure that something like MLS or whatever website you're using is continuously sending them out stuff. Now, I don't know in Canada if you can auto send solds. If you can, wonderful, because that seller's going to see what's selling in a micro way. And then the market newsletter or market update that tells the stats of, average price per square foot. That's really important stuff. Right? So, but when you call me now, or I call you now back in the future, hey, Pat, Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. Hope all is well. Was just touching base like I said I would. And again, I'm exaggerating the point, Pat. I'm not saying you'd have to say that last line, but for training purposes, I'm saying here I am, just like I said I would be. Okay. And just want to let you know, I emailed you over a market update of what happened in the first quarter. It was pretty interesting. Average price went up. That's good news. And even better is I was just looking at the stuff that's sold around you. And I also emailed that. I just took a quick snapshot. You're probably seeing it in your email, but just in case you didn't, I took the last 5 sales in your neighborhood. They're all pretty good and they're all up. Boom. I'm super, super relevant because what they really want are pictures and details of property. See, even when she's talking to expireds, now it's relevant for an internet lead, a long-term seller internet lead, for example, is that property information is now been procured by you proactively and it's been emailed proactively. Even if they were getting it automatically, when it's time for you to step in, it's time for you to step in, right? So, and so now you come relevant without having to babble. Hey, Danny, has your timing changed? Hopefully it has, because we need you to get you right. I mean, that's usually the thinking point. But in this case, as Dave stated last week, he feels relieved, but I did find that also he had a hole in the boat going forward. What am I going to say 2 months from now, a month from now, 2 weeks from now? I think we come back to the being the good steward of information. See, everybody's worried that the technology companies are somehow going to miraculously replace us. Laura posted in the Griffin Realty group. She said, hey, what do you think about Redfin's, instant offer? Well, here's what we think. Nobody can make a dang decision without good guidance. So how are they going to just do it online? You think you're just going to go online and decide to whimsically put an offer in on the house without guidance? Give me a break. It's absurd, right? It's absurd. We can't get people to make a decision just to list it, just to price reduce it, just to write the offer. They need, right? Exactly. They need guidance. So guidance is what you're offering long term. And if you set that offer up right, on the saddling and leveraging property info, you're off to the races. So I'll repeat that, and I'll do it on the buy side. Hey, Pat, sounds like you're not going to be ready to make a move and buy in the next 12 months. But what I'll do is I'll keep you updated on the trends in the market in Ottawa so that you can see what's happening. And also, I know we hooked you up already with the lender. I'll check in from time to time with them and make sure they update you on the rates and the programs available to you. But I think it's important also to see the sold properties in that area you want to move into so you can see their trends. That's how we educate our buyer clients to be prepared so that instead of being all exasperated or anxious when they go out to make that move, they're ready. They're prepared, right? So I'll touch base with you from time to time about those properties. So it's always relevant. Now, Pat, you can get what you want in that moment. Hey, we're talking, it sounds like you're getting a little bit closer. It's no sweat off our back to send you out there to see a couple of your personal favorites, right? You want to go out so you can still get what you want, which is an appointment, presuming that things might have changed. But your relevance in the arrival at that follow-up call is all predicated on property information, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
So there you go. So I think that's really important. Sarah, you want to weigh in on that with us?
Hey, Danny, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Awesome.
No, I definitely took into consideration adding more value into my conversation with anybody that is more than 6 months out, being able to tell them, you know what, and setting that expectation that I will be following up, giving them an idea of what's going on in the area they're looking at. So I really like that piece of conversation.
Sarah, you've been doing this a long time now, like Pat and Dave, et cetera. So do you see any shift? Because this is the thing I always like to talk about too in a sales training environment. Do you see a shift in the Ottawa market? You see anything changing? The way people are behaving?
I think people are a little bit more cautious about who they're speaking to.
Mm-hmm.
And, people have tons of friends and family that are in the business, but there's not really an actual point of contact.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the biggest shift I've noticed is people maybe just being a little bit defensive in that they can figure out this information on their own because there's so many places online that they can find this information.
All right,
you kind of have to fight.
Yeah. I like it. Lean in on that one. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that chunk right there because that does put pressure on the offer. You see where I was going early on? You've been around long enough, and Canada was a little bit slower to give up its proprietary control over the information. The states just gave it away back in 1995, 96 when Realtor.com became a thing. That was Pandora's box being opened where all this information went up online. Canada was a little slower to protect that, but now you can't stop, change. So you're right. There's a perception. And I actually, quite frankly, hear that some of the folks, the principals I coach, well, they can get that online. No, just because it's available doesn't mean they can procure it, find it, clean it up. And that's what I think is the basis of the power of this new offer. Say, look, I know this is available everywhere online. I know there's 3 people sending it to you. But what's most important for you to understand is that here at Metro City, we actually are proactively serving you. And you're not even doing business with us yet, right? The folks here at Metro City think it's so important that people get proper guidance in a confusing internet world that's my job. So I'm going to be following up with you to help you procure the right information. Sure, there's access, but you're going to tell me that you have enough time to go through the multiple listing service, look for the stuff that's pertinent, dig out the solds that tell a story, and then interpret it. It's not going to happen, but I'm here for you. See, there's the narrative, Sarah, that I think has to become part of this modern internet age, is that this is precisely what people are desperately in need of, right? They're in need of this kind of guidance. You've always done it, but more so as an appointment taker, and your job is to book them. And ironically, you were always giving the service to get the appointment, but never really believing in it, never really stating it. And I think that now the pressure of all the competition of information being readily available, I think more than ever, you need to see your own value. Like I see you and Pat and Autumn and everybody that does that particular job as extremely valuable to the consumer. But I want you all to get it so that when you're making that offer, it's not that you have to explicitly state it, but you do have to believe it, that say, look, I get it. There's 3 people sending you information. It sounds like it might be helpful, but let me just tell you what we do differently here. I am a concierge desk worker, meaning what? I'm here to serve you for free. Like if you walk into a first-class 5-star hotel, there's something called a concierge desk. There's no charge for their help. There's no charge for my help. Well, what do? Well, I dive into MLS once I know what you're looking for. Even if you're not ready, we continue to educate you so that when the time comes to make this massive financial transaction, buy side or sell side, you're as educated as you possibly can be. And hopefully, because we did that for you over time, 2 months, 6 months, 12 months, you'll reward us with an opportunity to serve you in a more formal capacity as one of our clients. I think that's a critical narrative. Anybody want to comment on that? You two or anybody else?
Well, it drops their guard. All of a sudden, you've gained their trust because you're showing them you want to offer them something, and it is for free. And all of a sudden, you've created that rapport, and then you've opened up that relationship that you're going to continue to have. So that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest shift I think.
Yeah, and then you need to back it up. That's the key. Yeah. Because that next call, that very next action. Hey, Sarah, what I'm going to do is put you directly into MLS so you have direct access to the source, right? Now, when I do that, here's what's going to happen. There's going to be an email that might end up in your spam. It's a door. It's your portal into MLS, just like realtors, okay? Now, again, I told you, I'm going to be proactively looking, but I want you to be able to go in and out of that door whenever you want. Might be 11 o'clock at night when you like to look at properties. I don't know. So the first thing that's going to happen is that's going to come to you, okay? I'm going to look to see if it's set up properly, and I'll give you a call in a couple days just so we're off on the right foot. That's an example. That's an example of service very quickly, that you can go to them very quickly with that kind of feedback, right? Now, hey, it's me again. I saw that the portal came to you. Did you get it? Did you see it? Right? Great. I'll talk to you next month. If in the meantime you need me, call me back, right? So, and Autumn, that's key for you too to hear me say that, is that your books of business, if you want more now business, you're going to get the cream off the top when you get lucky, like Autumn said. You're going to get lucky over the course of volume where there are people whose timing is now. Like she said, she referenced a couple people in the last 8 weeks whose timing was now to at least let me come and visit with them personally. One guy wanted me to meet him at his business so he just could vet me. He could see who I was. It sounded legit, but he wanted to meet me. Right? Then he wanted to ask his wife if it was okay for me to come over and meet with them both. That's next. So we're giving him the process he wants. The other guy was like, sure, come over to my house. Not only will I vet you there, we'll talk about the house, right? And we got right down to the math. But there were other people where the circumstances were close, but not close enough. So sometimes you get those appointments. But again, my point in this is the offer has flexibility in it based on the timing. So if somebody's really white hot, hey, Danny, look, we got to get this set up. I know you're looking at, all these apps online. This is the source, and I am the concierge desk. So if you have to be out of that house, that rental is ending, and you need to buy, we need to move swiftly. I know you're talking to somebody. Let me get you a second opinion from our lender. That's number one. How much money do you really want to spend? Number two, take a guesstimate now, and I'm going to take a search. I'm going to do a radius search in that neighborhood. I'm going to send you about 5 or 6 solds so you can see what the money that you think you're going to spend just bought. Then I'm going to call you, make sure you got them. We're going to go over them together, and you're going to tell me which ones you would have bought. Then I can properly set your search up. But we have to move swiftly here because you only have 30 days. So see, it's the same process. But the way that we say it to the person whose timing is inside of 30 because we got lucky and caught them versus the one who's 12 is just we slow it down. We break it into micro beats, and we either speed it up because of their timing or we slow it down. Follow me, Sarah? Pat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the two of you will find massive amounts of money are available for Metro City and you two in that longer run. Stay to what you're doing in the other run, but emphasize the concierge desk. So when you're trying to peel somebody off the street in this competition, you need to be really sharp about what you are there too, right? Don't try to oversell the outside salesperson yet. Do yours first. Look at, we work here in a very particular way to serve you quickly and swiftly. So if you have to make this fast decision, you got to get this education. Whether it's from us or not, we're free. Look, we're free. Just meet with the outside sales agent who's going to go over some of the stuff that I'll email. I'll give you a little warm-up list of what's sold. But when he comes out and he meets with you, you're going to sit down and really get into the micro details of what that means for you. This is all free, right? I'm sure you want to make a smart decision here. So you see, it's that I'd like to see that you two emphasize your value versus just seeing yourselves. And Autumn, this is you too as a telemarketer. The job only begins when there's interest and they're listening to your offer. It only begins. We have a lot of work to do because you said, Sarah, the most important thing there is build that trust. So the real skill set for the telemarketing set, like the three of you today, is how quickly in a 60-second snippet can you just get a little inkling of trust going. Wow. And Autumn's already heard this. Wow, you sound honest. You sound trustworthy. You sound like somebody I could trust. She's heard those things already. So you're all good enough at that. And it's important to lean into those moments. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let me hear from some of the other folks on the call here today, and any burning sales questions I'll deal with as we're, at the tail end of the first hour here. And I don't want to go too far today. Questions, thoughts, Tommy Winter, Sonia Butler, Eugene Clark, some of my faves, Laura Reckmeyer, anybody from the Rossetti family. Oh, Andy Snow. Yes, absolutely. After the offer, does it make sense to dig into timing? And if they're thinking about putting the house back on the market in the expired context we're talking about, absolutely. Absolutely. But then it's appropriate. Once they've said, that there's a warm up and there's some trust, were you thinking about doing it? How come you didn't put it right back on? Right? What stopped you from putting it back on? Absolutely. And that's that whole idea of being transparently aggressive with them to lead them. Like if they're now allowing you, because you all can sense what trust sounds like. All of a sudden somebody's guard is lower. A lot of people don't naturally have trust, so you have to work a little bit harder with them to earn it. Some just open the door like, wow, this sounds great. Yeah, tell me more. So you're trying to gauge that as the conversation is going along. Okay, that's what you're trying to do. But the point is, you like be skilled there and say, look, this is logical. With or without me, if you're going to put it back on, I want you to get this information. Well, my sister's a realtor. Great. Didn't work out with her the first time. So I'm thinking maybe I should send you my stuff. Have her use my stuff. And if it doesn't work out with her, we'll pay her a referral fee. Get out of the way. So it's always, there's logic there before we bail out on it. Okay. Thoughts, questions about this topic here today, about the offer, no matter what offer it is, being appropriate for their timing after you earn a little bit of trust. Thoughts?
Hey, Danny, this is Andy.
Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, just circling back to kind of the beginning when Autumn was speaking and her script, she's coming in and saying, I've got some information, we believe it will help you sell it. If you choose to put it back on the market, may I send that to you? So tactically, are you getting that permission? And then when you get a yes, that's when you put together the information and send it out to them. As opposed to the tactic of doing it ahead of time, sending it out, and then calling up and saying, hey, I saw your house expired. They kind of same information, the same script, but then you say, I wanted to let you know that I have sent you information.
Okay, Andy, it's a fabulous question. Okay, when I first started thinking about how do you get more sellers, okay, the number one thing is don't waste time. Everybody can't wait to talk about social media, the most nebulous place about talking about real estate. Okay. They're the farthest away from context that we're aware of. It boggles my mind that everybody wants to teach and coach and talk about social media first. It has its place and it's important, but it is not the closest to somebody looking to sell. Okay. So people have this negative reaction to going to talk to somebody who's in a probate situation, a FSBO, an expired. Okay. They have this negative reaction to this obvious conversation that's potentially waiting for us. Why? I don't know. It's a head scratcher. I think it's because they see it as negative. So when you pick up the phone, what my thought is, if you've decided that you're in a micro niche in Seattle, in your case, I think you should think you're the community servant for everybody trying to sell. And if you can identify who they are, why wouldn't you get a package to them that was helpful? That was my thinking. Right? My thinking was narrow your market niche down to a particular neighborhood, start from the center of the bullseye and send the package to them. Now, obviously, Andy, some expireds are they just expired. Everybody's sloppy. It comes on the market, goes right back on. Okay. You want to take a beat for a week and see what happens? You can try calling in that first week, but I'm not a proponent of calling just because you're going to be the first guy or gal. I think it's stupid. Right? I think it just makes everybody this weirdo on the phone trying to pressure people to let them in. And you got 15 people doing the same thing. Dumb. I just think it's dumb.
Right.
Okay. I'm talking from my perspective. I'm not criticizing anybody who coaches that. I'm just saying I think it's dumb because I don't want to be everybody else. And I don't want anybody I coach to be everybody else. I want you to be the best servant of these people that were there. Right? See what I'm saying? So yeah. What I'm saying is I want you to be different. I would rather you sent the package of let's say at least you send them pictures and details of properties that sold. Why would you do that? Because you know that they didn't sell and you want them to know what did. You would do that anyway if you were going over there to list it. Those are called comparable sales to the best of our ability as an agent. So why not just give them some comparable sales and say, I thought this would at least be interesting to you. This is what sold around you, right? So you send that off to them. So my thought is send it first, call second. Now, of course, life doesn't work that smoothly. So you might not, and you might not have those resources. You might not have the money to print these nice booklets of 7 steps and, use the copier for gajillions of cloud CMAs. I understand that. So what would I do in that case? I would default to what Autumn's doing, but Autumn's picking up in a batch of expireds that Laura had already sent stuff to, and they may or may not have received it. Now, am I telling you that we might not go into the future by not sending it first and calling first? Maybe. I may change my mind, but remember, I still want to be the best steward of information that I can be to build brand over the long run. I really, truly believe that being a community servant is very important to me as a company owner. I just feel in the long run, the roots for doing it that way will grow much deeper and stronger. But I recommend, in your case, send it first, call second about it. And a lot of them will say they didn't get it, gives you a chance to send it again. Yeah, Autumn, go ahead. You can weigh in on that.
Well, Andy, I hear what you're saying. I have had to call people that have already received the package, and I get one of 2 answers. I never saw it, or, I don't remember getting it. So I get this answer. And personally, Danny, with all due respect, I think it's a waste. I would rather just go in like an arrow and be that first voice on the phone, and then follow up my voice and my persona with the community service of the information. And the reason I'm saying that is because of my conscience towards our business here, which, those packages are expensive. And I think now that I'm here, I find that I am getting more results by going in when I can say, I would like to send you, may I? Rather than, you've got something, because if you guys remember, there was a whole conversation where I was dickering around with a woman about whether she got the package or not. And everybody's comment was, that's too much talk up front. And I heartily agree. I am a super proponent of getting in and getting out, being polite, being gracious, being of service, leaving them with a good taste in their mouth. So I personally prefer the ones where a package wasn't sent out. I think we save money. I think if I'm on top of it and their listing, their expired comes to me, that if I'm on top of it and I immediately talk to them, I think we accomplish it in a more concise way.
Yeah, and that's why I said,
Money ultimately.
well, no, that's why I said the most important thing about hiring people who are expert at a piece is to shut up and listen to what the consumer really does, right, Andy? So she's not upstaging me or contradicting me. I'm actually looking to see if she can find a better way. And so I was very intent on what she said earlier. And in fact, while she was just telling you what she said, I typed into the prospecting mind map, sort of this 2B, right? I saw your beautiful home online and I saw that it didn't sell. I'd like to send you some information that will help you sell your property next time. May I do that? I think it's very concise. I'm intrigued by it.
There's the pitch.
Yeah, correct.
There's the pitch
Correct.
right there.
Correct.
Danny, I like that. But are you not thinking about possibly sending out the package again?
Well, we definitely send it out. I mean, for sure. But the question on the table will be, and this will be up for debate for all of us, is it a waste, Gail, to just randomly send direct mail marketing without telemarketing first? That's the question that's frankly on the table.
No,
And it's
I got that.
yeah, and it's legitimate, right?
Yeah, I'm
I
wondering
think
if it is a waste.
Yeah. Well, it's legitimate. Well, here's
If
go ahead, Adam.
you ask me, I'm going to say, if you ask me, I'm going to say yes. I think telemarketing is better than paper marketing any day of the week. That you have the personal touch, and that covers all the bases right there.
However,
You have the, human voice.
However, I do not believe telemarketing in and of itself in the real estate business is anywhere near enough. And that was my point, Sarah.
The other thing is that
hold on.
through experience,
Yeah.
I have found that the expireds will call me because of the marketing material.
Absolutely.
So I'm just kind of
Yes.
listening back and forth.
Yeah. Well,
I've got to go by what my experience is
yeah.
and what works.
Yeah.
Would like not to send out packages to everybody because we don't work with all the expireds, but I've got to do the law of averages, and law of averages tell me. In fact, I'm just selling the house again to a guy who received my expireds, and I sold his house, and now he's buying another one. So
Gail,
I've got to know that the marketing does work as well.
Gail, let me say this. I think we have moved into a world where the power of physical content, whether it's delivered in direct mail form or it's delivered digitally, there is no denying its necessity. Period.
Absolutely.
Period.
Okay.
And that's it's a very, very important point here to make, because what's making your offer, Autumn, successful is that you are about to send content that is extremely valuable to them. And the same point to you, Sarah and Pat, that I'll leave this call with. The fact that you would be digitally sending them content that is now supporting your next phone call is everything. Like I'm
Did
certain.
you write that in the mind map? What
I
you
did.
said?
I did.
Remember when Autumn goes, that's a perfect script.
I got it. I was reading it. I had written it while we were talking.
It's a perfect, and thank you for educating me on what your media marketing is doing, because like I say, I'm a novice, guys.
Yeah.
You just have to hear me as a telemarketer. That's what I'm good at. I'm learning this business. Danny, I think where I'm coming from is simply that I hate the idea of having to send a second package.
Yeah,
because
sure.
I see on my board that Laura has sent the first one, so there's $7 or $8. Now I'm going to get them to I'm going to get it. They've gotten $20.
Okay, so let's talk about that, Autumn. $7 or $8, and you get a listing, and you're getting a $15,000 commission. What's the ROI on that?
Yeah.
So
right. I guess I'm just being. I'm probably going on past experience.
Yeah, she's
okay.
And that's the thing that I think, Gail, why people like you and I can add value to all the people that are doing this is to express to them that. And Dan Kennedy has a good, he does this well. He puts this concept forward. What he says is, how much would you spend to acquire a customer? How much would you spend, Andy? I'm going to leave this and let this really just ruminate over the weekend until next week. How much would you spend to acquire a customer? It's a really good question because.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah, go ahead. Who's that? Fire away.
Danny, it's Laura. What I heard was the issue was more that's how it started the conversation off going in the wrong direction instead of being smooth. Like it was like, did you get the package? Oh, no, what package? Oh, no, I don't remember. Did you email? And then your whole flow of the conversation of the call got messed up. That's what I thought she was saying more than just the cost.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
Well, I was saying that, but thankfully Gail is showing me something here, and I agree with you, Gail, that for a client and a $15,000 commission, I mean, how much will I spend? I think my anxiety was just simply being new at a company and not wanting to spend their money because I don't have the big picture.
Yeah.
The big picture is coming for me, guys. You have to remember I'm not an agent yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that's what matters most here is that you come in completely naive to real estate, but not at all to telemarketing. So what I'm more fascinated by is the melding of what we know as pro real estate agents and marketers. And we've been brought up with the power of content marketing. Most of us understood what the power of the free report was and how that changed the relationship. Number one, the law of reciprocity. A gift of information is a powerful exchange with the consumer. That's number one. So who cares what it costs to get it to them if they are the right avatar in the right geography and over the course of acquiring that. Let's say that you send 5 packages and you double down. So you spent $100 and there's 5 people. 3 of them let us in the door, 1 list, and it's $1 million property. The math works all day, every day, right? So I think,
Anxiety eradicated. I'm sure you guys are going to teach me a ton. Okay, but that was my anxiety because I've been in other situations where it's like, we have to make sure of what's going on, blah, blah, blah.
Well, we still do. We still do. But I just want to leave everybody with this thought. There is no better fight than a 1-2 punch. You can have a left hook. You can have a straight right. But if you can throw them both, you win the fight more often than not. And that's the equivalent of telemarketing supported by content. It is the 1-2 punch. Okay, that's what it is. And if we can continue to drive these conversations towards an orchestrated sound, is it in pitch? Is it in tune? That's why I'm very, very intrigued by your naivete to fall into this. And I've shut my mouth and listened, and I actually am wide open. I'm wide open to this change on what you're doing. And I might just let you keep saying it, but I still might just keep sending the packages. You follow? So to that extent, I'm trying to feel my way to the best of both these worlds. But great job. All right, everybody, listen, that's enough. Good job. I don't like to go too far because then it becomes too much talk. Take action on this stuff. It's really, really, really good stuff. And it works, right? Because we see it working with Autumn. And I appreciate your humility to say it. Pat, Sarah, thank you. Gail, thank you. Andy, thank you. Everybody who weighed in on this call today, thank you, thank you, thank you. These calls are far better with participation. So good work. Have a fabulous weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
You're welcome all. Yeah, you're welcome all. Good work.